Wednesday, Hump Day Wednesday. Sorry, my other phone tried to die on me. But anyway, this is going to be a brief broadcast and reference the passing of 23-year-old Otis Anderson Jr., who, according to news reports, was killed Monday night by his father, Otis Anderson Sr., who had recently turned 52 years old. Otis Anderson Jr. was only 23. I pondered a lot about this and wondered, was it just a random domestic violence incident? Or can it be tied into Scripture? And the Scripture I'm referring to is Luke. And it reads, "They will be divided, father and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against daughter, and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law." That's Luke 12:53, the New International Version. Now, I'm a believer. However, I respect the beliefs of everyone and do not judge, will not judge. My channel is not about that. No, I have opinions. Some of them I'm passionate about. But this story is really heartbreaking because it reminds me when Marvin Gaye was killed by his dad. Now, I don't know many of the details other than what I've read on print, which includes there was some type of altercation and it ended up with Otis Anderson Jr. suffering from an apparent gunshot wound to his chest. I don't know if that detail has been modified, but that was the first that I read. I don't know what could lead a parent to take the life of their own. Now, we all have argued. Well, let me not say that because I don't know everybody in the entire world. But I would think that many have argued with their parents because when we're young, we think we know everything. Or we may be summoned to do something we don't want to do. And if you grew up in the country like I did, and you live under Big Mama's roof, that was my mom. I just called her Big Mama because she had those big switches. We would have to listen to and do what I say. Simple as that. And we did. And when we didn't, we would get the switch. Big switches, too. That we hear all too often domestic incidents. Usually, wife, husband, husband, wife. But this particular one, at the time that I read it and uploaded on my page, it just involved the son and his mother. Also, from the reports that I've read, Otis Anderson Jr. was a joy to play with. He was revered by his classmates, teammates, and coaches from college and the brief stint he had with the Los Angeles Rams. There was one report, and this is alleged, that the father may have possibly been bitten by the son's girlfriend's dog. And he apparently got upset. Some type of argument ensued. And Otis Anderson Jr., according to the report, was asked to go upstairs. And a short while later, I believe the father must have overturned some furniture, which prompted Junior to return back down the steps. And the situation began to escalate. And from the other information from earlier reports, Mr. Anderson Jr. was shot, apparently in the chest, and succumbed from his injuries. On Tuesday, which was yesterday, Otis Anderson Sr. was in court, and he was charged reportedly initially with second-degree murder and attempted second-degree murder, but then another report indicated he was charged with first-degree murder. So again, some of the details are still not definitive as of yet, and I haven't checked since earlier today. This is an open investigation, so I'm sure more details will be coming. But it just leads me to wonder, at 52, could being bitten by the girlfriend's dog enrage you to the point where you could take your own child's life? Or did something else happen? And that was just the tip of the iceberg. Was there any drug use? Perhaps alcohol? I ask those questions because those sometimes, with some people, make situations worse. And people tend to react prior to thinking, and after actions are taken, you can't erase them, such as this tragic, unfortunate case. Otis Anderson Sr. doesn't get a do-over because Otis Anderson Jr. is no longer here to defend himself or describe in his words what happened. So we'll have to rely on the investigation and the other witness, who is his mom, that can perhaps shed light on this truly tragic story. We have lost so many young people with promising lives who just started to live, and just heinous acts continue to dim the lights. I don't know if gun reform will change this. I don't know if domestic violence laws will change this. But I don't believe this was just a one-off. I believe, and again, this is just my opinion, there was some type of altercation or issues going on within it. Just I just don't understand it. 23 years old. You had to have known his demeanor. Did Otis Anderson Sr. fear for his life? What happened in those final moments? Was there a struggle? Those are things the investigation should uncover and provide, because definitely people close to the decedent, Mr. Otis Anderson Jr., would like to know. Questions loom. Why? How? I know there are neighborhood kids here, a few of them. And I talked to one of the parents yesterday who was walking her dog. Really nice young woman. I think I'm probably 15 years her senior, but she told me that she's been having problems with her son where he's actually gotten up in her face. This boy, he's kind of big, but he can't be no more than 10 years old. And he's actually talked back to me when I've asked him and a couple of others to please stop using my front yard as a playground. And they'll get side eye, or we're playing. I'm like, I understand that, and I'm not asking you not to play. I'm just asking you not to play on my property. The playground is that away. Or play in front of your own home. And they have talked back until I sought out the parents and we had a discussion. So I don't have those problems anymore, except for one little girl who basically told me, I don't care if you talk to my parents. Well, I haven't found out where she lives, and I'm not going to follow her around. But one day, we'll have a little meeting because she just doesn't get it. And I don't blame all of the children. Sometimes it could be the parents. Sometimes it could be just rebellious kids. But I don't believe it was rebellion in the case of Otis Anderson Jr. I believe there was something deeper. Again, this is strictly my opinion, that occurred that caused an argument. And then the tragic end of a young life. As I said earlier, the scripture in the book of Luke that speaks about parents against children, children against parents. It all ties in to much of what we see that's happening today. What's right is wrong. What's wrong seems right. We have people, the powers that be, that are, in my opinion, doing things at whim as it comes along, without regard to how it affects the people, their livelihoods, and it's bringing out unpleasant and behaviors that are dangerous, because many people have come to be belligerent within moments. People drive without regard to anyone else on the highway. And if you happen to go out to the store or the market, same thing. Everyone is rushing. Courtesy and consideration for other people are seen to fly out the window. No, that's not the case with everyone and everywhere. But I have personally seen an uptick, and I can only pray that soon things will change. My mom, bless her heart, and may you continue to rest in peace, always used to say, it gets worse before it gets better. Well, Mom, we've been living in worse for almost 2 years now. And with each report that comes out with this pandemic and all that entails, I don't really see an end of that tunnel as of yet. So I'll remain in prayer. My condolences to Otis Anderson Jr., family, friends, teammates, classmates, and loved ones, fans, mentors, coaches, because it's a tremendous, tragic loss. I'm sure more details will come out, and I will post on my page. You all have a good day. This Wednesday, the first day of December. This is The Wise TV. Good night.